Friends and family, my name is Skylent, and I've been a content creator on YouTube for about a decade now, where I played online games, and I did list videos on MMOs a lot, and I just liked making content on games that I could play with you guys on stream. So if you want to subscribe to know whenever I go live, please do. We like to play together, and even my Discord in the link description is called the Video Game Party Club. It's a place where you can go to make friends, play games together. So there was a game that I played that was the first MMO that I got to play with other MMO content creators. This was the first MMO that I really was excited for, like, spitting at the mouth for whenever trailers came out and dreaming of making my new gaming PC to play. And that was TERA. The Exiled Realms of something, I don't remember, but you just call it TERA. TERA is going to be a game that we actually talk about forever. And it's been a game that we've talked about, even though we haven't played it forever. TERA is now, I'm announcing, but you probably know, that's why you clicked on the video, it's shutting down. So we can all lament this sadness together, even though probably none of us still play the game. But still, we probably always had thoughts of maybe going back and running some dungeons, trying out that insane end game, and just getting that feeling once again of that ridiculous action combat mixed with the Holy Trinity. Something that is unique and special to this game, something that you can only sort of perversely maybe get in a game like Elden Ring for a moment if you really try. Barely see glimpses of inside of Monster Hunter. I mean, not really. And debatably, yeah, once again, just touch it, just a little sprinkled here and there in games like Guild Wars 2. Like, you really barely kind of get what TERA had in a bunch of other games. And sure, that could be a problem of what happened with TERA. TERA was a title that was an MMO, but really what it did best was action combat inside the dungeons, inside specifically the endgame raiding. The dungeoneering of the endgame was bullet hell-like, it was arcade, it was ridiculous, it was silly, and yet it was incredibly sincere. Like the timing of the blocking, if you were a tank lancer at the endgame, it was one of the best experiences of my life. And I mean, if you had a ranking, and maybe we could do these videos later if you want, let me know in the comments, like a tier list of the best tanking in MMOs. I think a lot of people would obviously put World of Warcraft pretty high up there, but I think for a lot of people, without even thinking, they'd be like TERA. TERA tanking was the best. TERA healing was the best because it was action combat, actual aimed, actual timing, and it felt so good. And of course, everything else about TERA kind of ruined everything, but let's talk about just overall the impact of TERA. This is not a scripted video, this is not a death of the game, which I'm sure is going to come out. I really want you guys to just hear what I have to say about this, because it's really more of a prediction of the future. So TERA, basically, it shows us that even though the population wasn't that high, TERA, if you just look on social media, especially now that it's been announced that it's shut down, maybe even in the comments of this video, which won't get too many views, you can immediately hear and see people saying, yeah, this game changed my life. This is where I met my wife. This is where, one of my first MMOs that I really got into and played and grinded out. This was a game that showed us what MMOs could be. And from there, we actually have seen ripple effects in certain titles that, like Guild Wars 2, adding in action combat elements already in the vanilla game, and then later on adding in a literal action combat camera because people were clamoring for it, because people knew that it was possible in MMOs. And not just possible, but actually it's crazy, but TERA is still the best. So whenever I go talk to other content creators, other YouTubers, other influencers, whatever you want to call them, or if I fly out and I happen to meet them at an event, maybe like we go play a game or something, like we get invited to review games, we talk about other games there. We'd be like, oh, we were playing New World, we're like, oh man, New World action combat, TERA did it better. We'd say stuff like that, like, oh man, TERA's action combat was just, people just want to talk about TERA. Why? Because it was just, frankly, it was hype. It was exciting. You can look at the trailers and stuff, and it was just absolutely phenomenal. Now, you can look at games like Blade and Soul, which I think in many ways, technically, it's an esport. Blade and Soul is a competitive, like, wuxia kung fu fighting game, and its combat is really great. And you know what? I kind of actually enjoy its single-player story a little bit, but in the end, like, it's dungeoneering and endgame. It's okay, but it's just like, it doesn't have that spice that TERA had, especially with the Holy Trinity. That really makes a difference. BDO technically has better, bigger, way faster action combat, and I would love a Black Desert 1v1 game. Oh my god, as a fighting game, as an arena fighting game, it would be spectacular. But anyways, with the lag, the latency, and a lack of Holy Trinity, BDO really is more like a Diablo MMO. So it's still not like TERA. What TERA was, okay, we're gonna make World of Warcraft, except action combat. And in most ways, yeah, it sucked. The leveling, the questing, I thought was boring. I wish it was less wordy. They should have made it more arcadey. Or just, you know what, frankly, what I could see for a TERA 2, in my opinion, I hope it's not an MMO. Because I just hope it's a Holy Trinity, like, MMO light game. You know, maybe there's some field bosses. I'm thinking something more like Destiny. You know what I'm saying? Something more like Fallout 76, where it's not like a massive world and it's not a actual like hundreds of players or anything like that. And I don't want all these weird quest systems and gems and pay to win monetization. Just throw me in Monster Hunter style. Throw me into an area with my friends, you know, and then we have a healer, we have a tank, we have some DPSs, and then let us fight some big ass monsters. That's what TERA did best, and it was freaking amazing. And I do want lots of different races, and hopefully we can have more unique racials, and that ties into everything. Hopefully the classes are still weird and wacky, like, you know, I liked the Slayer, I liked, you know, the Gauntlet classes, all that stuff was ridiculous. I loved it. I want more of that. I just want more of it. TERA, what it did with its pure mechanics, with its, you know, what they had for an MMO, and then how they elevated it and evolved it, that is, in my opinion, untouched. So again, if we had a ranking system of technically what is the best action combat MMO, you know, I guess we'd have to say BDO, but it takes two to tango. And TERA monsters definitely have to get some applause here as well. The big-ass monsters, or we abbreviate them as BAMs, inside of TERA actually had attacks that you had to watch, that you actually had to time, and you had abilities, of course, that worked in tandem with that. This is something that we applaud Dark Souls games for, Souls-like games, and especially Elden Ring. If you actually look at Elden Ring, a lot of the monster designs, even and attack patterns and stuff like that now, really do remind me of TERA. So TERA is a game where I went in fresh babyface, and I was given a max level account for the end game. I got to play as a Lancer, and because of my experience with games like Dark Souls or a few other titles, and of course in general MMOs, I was actually able to grind it out, learn certain attack patterns, and because I was playing with a bunch of other collaborators, but not too many at any one time, it was like 3 at a time, we went into dungeons 3 players at a time instead of 5, it still showed me that actually, no, even sometimes when 2 people would die, I was soloing bosses, like, you know, just to get that last couple of health bars down. I was able to tank and shield, and yeah, it took a freaking long time, but I was able to solo bosses. And it was really surprising to me. Not to say that that's like a really good thing and a really awesome thing, because when you get to the end game, the rating, it's like, I mean, maybe if you were perfect, I don't know if that's even possible, but like, holy crap, the end game was hard. But what I'm saying is that overall, you are rewarded for skill, for practice, for training. And also, at the same time, it showed me that all the leveling is bullcrap, all of the progression mechanics is bullcrap, and all of that would need to be revamped. It's just basically numbers for the sake of numbers. There's really no choice in progression between the classes. There was just it was non-content there in terms of an MMO. So what I want to see is a more confined version of TERA. So if TERA 2 is going to be a thing, if it's going to be some sort of evolution, I know Elion exists, and Elion is like its own whatever the fuck. Okay, but what I want to see is basically a game like TERA that just focuses on what it does well. You know, so I'm not going to repeat myself too much. What that would look like is basically a Monster Hunter style game that is more magic based. So maybe sounds like Dauntless, except, you know, there's a Holy Trinity. I think that's a big aspect that people are missing in Hunter style games or dungeon raiding simulator games, which don't really exist, actually. There's a few that are basically, they're just Monster Hunter clones. But what I don't want a Monster Hunter clone, I want a TERA clone, I want a WoW raiding simulator, I want Final Fantasy XIV Endgame, but I want that to be the game. I don't want to go through the questing, I don't want to go through the story, I don't want to go through all the bullshit and the fake progression. I'm tired of that. Focus on what makes these games really, really great, at least for people like me, so TERA, make that really good. Also, WildStar would have been a fantastic example of this if they reconfigured themselves too. Another game that shut down. Could have been better as just a dungeoneering game, as a cooperative experience. So like Borderlands or something like that, really. So make a game like that, like TERA, and I'm pretty sure it's gonna do great. There's already a few games that are, these cooperative style dungeoneering games that are more focused, like they're grinders. They're actually pretty popular in Korea. So I think in the West, what we want is sort of the same thing, but also the inverse. We don't want the grinding aspect. Even though Warframe is incredibly popular, Path of Exile is incredibly popular, there is definitely a hunger for the community for that TERA experience, but without the TERA leveling experience, without the TERA experience. What made it good? So yeah, basically something like, you got Dungeon Fighter, you've got Warframe, you have actually like so many games, oh my god, Vindictus, there's so many of these dungeoneering games, but what I want is that end game, the raiding simulator, the end game, the hardcore, the bossing, the fighting, whatever you want to call it, the big ass monster slaying. That is what I want, and TERA, I think, did it maybe the best. Unlike some games where the monsters didn't really fight back, unlike some games where you don't really have a holy trinity, you don't really have too much teamwork, TERA was a game that really had, I think, a perfect balance. And that was like a long time ago. We're talking like a decade ago. This game was that revolutionary and really a foundation of the modern MMO genre that I think its legacy got passed on in the wrong way. A lot of companies kind of learned how to pervert their game and take it easy, the easy routes out, and a lot of games didn't see what it did great. But a lot of players did. We saw it, and so we are hungry for more. So it is sad that this game is shutting down, but I just kind of wanted to shout out, my vague thoughts and feelings, because I actually know a lot of content creators feel the same. We want to fight some big-ass monsters with our friends and do it with style. Please and thank you. That's what I gotta say. Hopefully we do say a TERA 2, but actually more hopefully we actually see just more games in this style. And you know what, right here in this video, what I'm gonna announce is I'm messing around with Unity and some other stuff. I did go to school for game design. I'm working with a company as a community manager to promote a online cooperative game. So I'm starting to learn more about this space other than just being a critic. If I have to, in the next 5 years, I will fucking make this game, okay? I will make it, we'll make it happen, let's do it, maybe we'll get some other content creators to jump in and promote it, but this has to happen, This is a game that will happen, so that's my prediction. I'm gonna make it, or basically what I'm saying is, someone is gonna make this game, because players are too hungry for this. And so that just shows the tragedy of TERA. Whenever you guys see more videos on the fall of TERA, you're gonna see why it's such a tragedy, like what they did to kind of ruin the game, all the problems that really happened. And if you just wanna know, end capping the video, why did TERA fail? For me personally, it failed because the engine. Something that was kind of a big problem with maybe like EverQuest 2 or a few other MMOs that really, like especially Unreal MMOs, right? Like the original Mortal or even Blade and Soul to an extent. The engine just really didn't hold up, and also the way the game was coded was just kind of fucky, to be honest. Like, it just didn't run the way it needed to for an action combat game. So that's why games like World of Warcraft have just consistently persisted and done so well. That was really the thing that killed it for me. For the hardcore players after that who persisted, it basically was the cash shop, the grind, and all that stuff. And for most people who jumped into the game, it was basically like the questing and leveling was boring, and they never even got to the epic end game, which frankly I only did because I was given a max level account. So, that's just my thoughts and feelings. Those are the problems. That's what it did great. That's it. Hopefully more people are gonna, elucidate all the issues with this game and also talk more about what made it so great, like the different classes and those unique mechanics that I didn't know. I just played Lancer, so for the most part. Can't wait to see the content to relive this game because we can't actually play it anymore. It's gonna be shut down. But if you guys missed on TERA, I'm pretty sure in the coming years, in the next generation, we're going to see some games that relive the glory days of TERA and maybe do it better. Hopefully do it better. Much love, friends and family. I'll see you in the next one.